The old man is nearly 80. He's a citizen of Turkey. His name is İlhan İkrim. But that hasn't always been his name. It was changed by law 40 years ago, along with the names of all his countrymen. He lives in a city that is more than 2,500 years old, and that has had 3 names in its lifetime: Byzantium, Constantinople, and Istanbul. İlhan İkrim was born in an Oriental empire, which at the height of its power controlled a large part of the civilized world. It's difficult for him not to look back to the distant days of former glory. He lives today in a republic which has done everything within its power to force its people to look away from the old days and to take bold steps into the future as citizens of a modern and progressive nation. And to a great degree, it has succeeded in doing just that. In order to fully appreciate the changes that have been made in the life and appearance of Turkey since its formation as a republic in 1923, it is necessary to look back into history to see what the land of the Turks was like before. This is the Republic of Turkey today, a nation straddling 2 continents, the part in Asia, the smaller in Europe. European and Asian Turkey are separated by a natural system of waterways called the Straits that connects the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea. A narrow, fast-flowing channel called the Bosporus leads from the Black Sea into the Sea of Marmara. Leading out from the Sea of Marmara to the Aegean Sea is another river-like channel, this one called the Dardanelles. We are looking across the plains to the Dardanelles from a place called Hisarlik. Here, the remains of 9 ancient cities have been found, each one built on the ruins of its predecessor. The first city dates back 5,000 years. Troy was the name of the 6th city. Here, according to ancient Greek legend, the Trojan Wars were fought. Achilles, Odysseus, Hector battled here for Helen of Troy. By the 8th century BC, there were many Greek cities located in land that is now Turkey. Troy, Sardis, Smyrna, Pergamum, Ephesus. These are the ruins of the city of Ephesus. These ruins are both Greek and Roman. The cities became part of the Roman Empire about 100 years before the birth of Christ. This is Pergamum, another ancient Greek city that became Roman. These are ruins of the Aesculapium, which was a health sanitarium. Kings and wealthy men came here to relax amid the theaters and libraries and to be cured by the foremost doctors of their time. At Byzantium, on the European side of the Bosporus, the Romans built these defensive walls. The ancient Greek city had been made the eastern capital of the Roman Empire, and its name changed to Constantinople. The Christian church of Santa Sophia was built by the Romans in the 6th century AD. The Roman Empire had become Christian soon after the capital was founded at Constantinople. Another chapter in the city's history is disclosed by the slender towers called minarets, which were added later by the Muslim Turks. The Turks were a nomadic people who came from Central Asia. They adopted the Muslim religion as they moved west. The Turks arrived in the land which is now Turkey in the 11th century and established their first empire. 3 centuries later, a tribe of Turks called the Ottomans rose to power. The Ottoman Empire grew quickly, but as with other conquerors, control of the Straits was vital to their success. The Ottomans systematically set out to conquer Constantinople. A Turkish castle had been built on the Asian side of the Bosporus. In 1452, they built another on the European side, just a short distance north from Constantinople. From this strong point, a complete siege of Constantinople was possible. The Turks had, for their time, the most modern instruments of war, and their soldiers were experts at using them. Finally, after more than 60 years of struggle, the city fell, and the Christian decorations inside Santa Sofia were replaced with Muslim phrases in Arabic script. The city became the center of the Muslim world and has remained so for 500 years. The capture of Constantinople, renamed Istanbul by the Turks, led to more Ottoman conquests. First in the Balkans and Central Europe, and then extending around the Mediterranean. The power of the empire was concentrated in the palace at Istanbul, where sultans reclined on the cushions of this elevated throne, surrounded by precious jewels. New mosques were built, rivaling Santa Sofia in size. This is the Blue Mosque, built by order of Sultan Ahmed. The power and wealth of the Ottoman Empire made it envied and feared throughout Europe. And in 1683, the Turks struck at the heart of Europe with the siege of Vienna. The siege failed, and that marked the beginning of the decline of the Ottomans. In time, the peoples of the Balkans and even the Muslims of North Africa broke away and established national states. By the time of the First World War, little was left of their empire. And of the little that was left, most was placed under the control of other nations, because the Ottomans had fought on the losing side as allies of Germany. The Greeks landed at the port of Smyrna to claim their share of the land of the Turks. But the Turks, for a defeated people, had a great deal of fight left in them. Under the leadership of a man named Mustafa Kemal, they drove the Greeks back to Smyrna, which in the course of battle was burned. Out of the flames, a new and very different Turkey arose. There was no more empire. The Sultan was overthrown, and Mustafa Kemal became the first president of the new Turkish Republic. The Turkey inherited by the new president was the remnant of a backward and crumbling empire. Mustafa Kemal believed that Turkey had to change into a progressive Western-style nation if it was to survive and prosper in the modern world. And it had to change quickly. Mustafa Kemal decided to change it by law. By law, Turks would no longer wear the fez and other Oriental-style clothing. They would wear Western hats and Western clothes. All Turks would take a family name, uncommon under Muslim culture. For example, Mustafa Kemal would become Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. The complicated Arabian script was no longer to be the alphabet of the land. A phonetic, Latin-type alphabet was developed for writing the Turkish language. It was against the law to use any other. The result, the 90% illiteracy of the Ottoman days shrank. With a simplified alphabet, people could learn to read more easily. Many powers were taken from the church. The country remained Muslim, but the church lost its political and legal power. No longer was the church the only teacher of students, the only maker of laws. Statues were erected, even though Muslim custom discouraged man-made representations of the human form. By law, Ataturk tried to change the traditions of a people. To dramatize the break with the past, the capital for the new Turkey was moved from Istanbul to the ancient town of Ankara in central Turkey, and a modern city was built there. Ataturk lies buried in this tomb in Ankara. For 15 years, he molded Turkey to the image he conceived. Although he was called a president, he ruled as a dictator. A grateful people erected this monument. But his real monument is the Turkey he left behind him. Ataturk succeeded in a remarkably short span of time in radically altering the course of his nation. Today, in many ways, Turkey is, as he wanted it to be, a modern nation. But Turks realize that they still have a long way to go before they catch up with the rich industrial nations of the world. And in Turkey today, there is a continuing and obvious effort being made to catch up. Each year, there are more schools and more students in them. Only with a well-educated population capable of intelligent self-government can Turkey hope to become a republic in reality. Turkey is primarily an agricultural country. Farming peasants like these men make up 75% of Turkey's population. Many of these people have resisted the spirit of Ataturk's westernizing reforms. Many of them farm today using the same primitive techniques used by their forefathers for centuries. Threshing wheat with a horse-drawn sled. Winnowing wheat with the wind. More modern farming methods are being practiced in Turkey, sometimes using machines manufactured in Turkish plants. And there is an active and growing program to teach farmers, particularly young ones, how to use modern equipment and to make them want to use it. But it will take a great deal of education, as well as a great many tractors, to make this site as common as this one. The Turkish highway system is being expanded, particularly in the central and eastern parts of the country, which have long been too remote for lack of roads. Turkey is a land of many climates, but the great interior of the country is, for the most part, mountainous and dry. In the interior, water is precious and must be saved and controlled and used. Since the days of the Ottoman Empire, there has been a decline in Turkish industry. But despite that growth, Turkey today is far from being a full-fledged industrial nation. Turkey produces some of the industrial goods she needs, often with the help of foreign capital. She also exports some products of her industry. These jeeps were built in Turkey. However, agricultural products make up the large share of Turkish exports. Such products as cotton and raisins find a market in Europe. And Turkish tobacco is sold all over the world. The port of Smyrna, called Izmir by the Turks, has been rebuilt from the fires that damaged it and is a busy port today. But Turkey's balance of trade is not good. The total value of the goods she must import is far greater than the value of the goods she exports. To balance her economy, Turkey must produce more products for her own use at home. Another problem of international scope. A Russian tanker travels past Istanbul, riding the fast current of the Bosporus. Russia has only two main ports in the eastern part of her huge nation. One is Arctic Murmansk, where shipping is slowed in the winter months by ice. The other is Odessa, on the warm Black Sea. Ships sailing in and out of Odessa must pass through Turkish territory in order to reach the oceans and ports of the world. For centuries, Russia has coveted control of the straits. Today, as in the past, Turkey and her allies are determined to keep them under Turkish control. The Southeast European Command for NATO is located at the port of Izmir. The Turks have proven themselves in battle for hundreds of years, but a small country needs help against a large one, and Turkey receives help, both economic and military, from her NATO allies. In the last years of its decline, the once great Ottoman Empire was often referred to as the sick man of Europe. Today, Turkey is not a sick man. A remarkable forced change in an entire nation's way of life has caused the Turks to put aside thoughts of past grandeur in favor of taking a giant step forward into the modern world. Turkey has not yet reached her goal of becoming an entirely modern and self-sufficient nation. But in striving for it, she has gained strength, which helps her to continue her pursuit of progress. The old man may dream of the glorious days of the past. The young men are proud of those days, proud of their heritage as Turks. But young eyes today in Turkey look to the future.